that that intervention caused quite a bit of debate here in Nigeria. There were those who condemned the coup in Benin Republic, condemned any change, any unconstitutional change of government, but then we're wondering why Nigeria had to intervene with its own military, you know, saying, has Nigeria finished taking care of its own security issues, so much so that it has the time and the effort and the energy to intervene in another country's problems. But to provide perspective, because we do know that in international relations, sometimes the headache of your next door neighbor could immediately become your headache. And we have someone to help provide perspective on this matter. We have Mr. Abdul Razak Ibrahim, who is a lecturer, Department of Political Science and International Relations at the Now University. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
this
me.
morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm sure you've been watching with very keen interest developments within Nigeria and, of course, within the ECOWAS sub-region as well. We saw the ECOWAS Commission raise or declare a state of emergency on democracy in its region. We also heard the National Assembly approve the deployment of ground troops to Benin Republic, as Nigeria's ground troops to Benin Republic. And people will say, do we really need that? Because we just heard the Minister of Foreign Affairs saying, in one breath thanking Nigeria, but saying that, you know, it was saying that their own armed forces can take it from there. What were your thoughts when you heard about this attempted coup in Benin Republic?
Good morning once again, and thank you for having me. When I heard the attempted coup, what really comes to my mind is that coups don't just happen. There are triggers, and one of the reasons that was propounded by the militaries that attempted the coup was that there is growing number of discontent among the military, the way they are being treated, most especially the soldiers that have been into war, those that are protecting the territorial integrity of Benin Republic. Away from that, they equally emphasize some of the security concerns in that, within that region, because within the corridor of Burkina Faso, they notice the spread among the jihadis and the terrorists now affecting their territorial integrity. This is one of the main interests of every nation, to provide adequate security for her own country. So having said that, one can say, yes, this is germane for them to be able to do this. Now, let's now
focus. It's germane for the coup plotters to do what they did?
No, like this, the government of Nigeria to come in and then to arrest and nip the security challenge so that they will not be able to escalate their own borders into the Nigerian borders. One of the major hooks in international relations is national interest. What is Nigerian national interest in this case? Let me furnish us with this important information. The number of Nigerians that are resident in Benin Republic are in millions. Nigeria is having some other internal security challenges that we are trying to battle with. Imagine if the state is thrown into chaos and then there will now be displacement in millions. That will affect their economy, that will affect every facet of their life. So Nigerians cannot afford again to allow this, even if for this reason alone, one will say, yes, it is important for Nigerians to intervene in this security challenge. And remember that Nigeria is equally the regional leader within this bloc. So leaders are expected to be responsible. And that might have informed the decision, most especially the swift decision taken by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You know, looking at the situation in Benin, I'll come to the conversation that was had yesterday with both ministers of foreign affairs. But there is a growing discontentment. I hope I'm getting that word right. People are discontented with democracy in this region. And it's not about democracy in itself, it's about the kind of leadership that we've seen. Sit-tight presidents, widespread corruption. ECOWAS is an economic community. This economic community doesn't seem to be thriving. And we're looking at countries now, looking at other options, trying to see if they can create democratic principles that are that reflect their own principles as a people. And then some are moving to the military, like we're seeing in parts of the region. Sorry. What can be done? Because sending forces, you can put as many forces as you want everywhere. If the root issues are not being sorted out, you would even get more resistance from people in these countries. So what do you think can be done? Because it does feel like, if we're saying that they should provide good leadership, that's a 10-year plan before we start to see actual results of good leadership. But what can be done to restore faith in democratic principles in this region?
I think what can be done to restore democratic faith in the people is simple, good governance. Because one of the reasons that was postulated by the coup plotters is equally issues referring to the instability in the nation. And instability will equally threaten the internal security. When people are hungry, they become susceptible to being you can easily employ them to do the bad things that they are not supposed to do. Take, for instance, the bandits. Some of them became very easy prey because of their economic downturn. So good governance is one of the main things that I will suggest that all the countries that are within this sub-West African region, they should key in, because democracy is not an end in itself. Democracy is supposed to take us to the promised land. If you don't have a good leader that is responsible to guarantee people the dividend of democracy, it's just like having a good car with an insane driver. He will not take you to the right destination. So African leaders need to take this fact that irrespective of the fact that we have a democratic system in place, they should now take those responsibility of being responsible leaders within the
How can ECOWAS enforce that? Because ECOWAS condemns, we strongly condemn in strong terms, strongly condemn in strong terms. But how do you ensure that leaders within your region are doing the right thing? Can they even do anything about it?
Well, ECOWAS cannot really enforce compliance to democratic principles, absolutely. However, they can try by educating the leaders, training the leaders, and having conferences just like the one that they have just described, because they've noticed that this is a critical issue that if they don't allow it to, if they allow it to continue, they've just celebrated 2 decades of democracy within this West African sub-region. And now, this ad-hand democracy, if they allow it to just go this way without being protected, that means it's going to cause a lot of trouble within the West African sub-region. So they could lay more emphasis on training and retraining of the leaders, and then you can even catch them young. They could have some clubs.
Training of the leaders?
Yes, they could go for
leaders.
Yes, they could go for seminars. Yes.
I'm just curious. I do not know how that will work. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine the president of our country going for training.
Yes, they now tell you you have to behave in such a way.
If you look at the, for example, the legislature, they have an institute where they have been trained to become a good legislator.
Yeah, because legislation is technical in nature.
Yes, the same thing is applicable to leadership, because there are some of the principles that you notice, at times the president could take the law into their hand, and that's why the institution of the judiciary is there, so that they can check their excesses. So taking them down, having these conversations with them, and letting them know how important getting good governance is germane, most especially within this critical time that our security is being challenged within this sub-region, is something that they cannot joke with.
Well, what I think came as a surprise to me was the conversations that, came forth in the wake of the intervention, Nigeria's intervention. We saw the statement written by Mr. Bayo Onanuga, talking about Nigeria's intervention, why we intervened, the fact that there was a note verbal to that effect. Otherwise, if there was no note verbal inviting Nigeria, that would have been termed an invasion and a breach of the sovereignty of another country. But we went there at the invitation of the Beninois government, and the foreign minister has since confirmed that. But it would seem that a lot of Nigerians were not quite proud of our intervention. They felt that, look, if we can be that swift in answering the call of Benin Republic, then perhaps we should be swifter in answering our own internal security issues, which they believe should be of priority. What was your take on that debate while it raged?
My take is, first and foremost, the dynamics between the two types of insecurity that is being tackled. What we are facing mostly in Nigeria is like a guerrilla warfare, that you don't really see your enemy. But I'm not saying that the government, do they need to do more? Yes, they need to do more. And that is what is bringing those grievances by the masses, including me. Because this is a youthful era, and you can see that the cost of even the air flight have increased because of the insecurity that we have been saddled with in Nigeria. So having said that, I think that this should be a wake-up call for the Nigerian government to equally enforce that energy that they could use in going to rescue other nations to do more within our own country. If they do that, yes, that will make Nigerians to be more proud of them, and then it will restore the confidence that they have in government.
Do you think it also came from a place of a lack of understanding? Because while we were on air, I mean, I remember I was joking with the fact that I think it was a former president of Benin Republic who used to joke that Benin Republic is the 37th state of Nigeria. I mean, just to show just how important and strategically important they were to us. And, they were our neighbors. We have a lot in common in terms of culture. And I was just noting the name of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Benin Republic. It's if you said that name even in Europe, anywhere in the Southwest,
yes,
everybody will know what it means.
Yes.
That's just how close in terms of cultural ties we are, and also, strategic ties, more or less. If Nigeria sneezes, Benin Republic will immediately catch a cold. Similarly, if there is a headache in Benin Republic, Nigeria will suddenly feel it on its very important border, because Benin Republic strategically borders Lagos,
yes,
which is a commercial capital. So I'm wondering, when I saw that debate rage, I was wondering if a lot of Nigerians were really aware of the strategic importance that Benin Republic holds in the scheme of things for Nigeria.
I think the public are aware. However, there is this popular saying that in Yoruba that they will tell you that you should be more concerned about yourself when people are on fire. So that might have informed the public opinion and the discontent that we are seeing within them. But if they are more attention that they give to the collective security, security is not just, it's a holistic thing. So if they know how deep it is for them to be able to protect our territorial integrity and the next door neighbors, if before the independence of Nigeria, these people were living as a nation before they were being carved out of Nigeria, and they have a lot of synergy, just like Niger. You can see the way they frustrated the attack that was intended by the president of Niger, because they are cousins, they are families, they are just like twins. And then this make it important for us to, I think, National Orientation Agency could equally do more by educating the masses more on the need for them to be aware of the reasons why we need to take into consideration the territorial integrity of our neighbors and the security within those axes, because it's a block.
Indeed. Well, the meeting of heads of state and government in ECOWAS will be happening this weekend. We know that, yeah, they'll be meeting on Sunday. But before that time, we've been seeing quite a number of meetings happening. And part of what we saw was this briefing by the minister. During the week, ECOWAS declared a state of emergency on the state of democracy within the ECOWAS region. What do you think that should mean?
Yes, I think it's coming rather too late, because this is not the first coup attempt. This is not the second one, and then the failed one. So why now, if we may ask? There ought to have been this conscious effort in doing this before the issues are now escalating. Because the danger there now is that the Sahel have formed a block. And it's going to be difficult for you to be able to deal with this block, because they pool their resources and their manpower together and their military strength, and they are trying to challenge. It's like them versus us. And that makes the situation more difficult to unravel. So I think ECOWAS ought to have done something earlier before now. However, it is a step in the right direction that it is coming now, and we hope that this will serve as a litmus test for them, whether they could sustain it, because this is not the first time they've been having this type of conversation and conferences.
What do you think will be discussed behind closed doors? Because you have said that leaders will need to deliver on good governance. Do you think that they will have the courage and yeah, I think courage is going to be a large part of it, and the honesty to be able to have very frank conversations amongst themselves with regards to the state of development within the ECOWAS region?
I think they will be able to do that at this moment, because, you know, leadership is a holistic thing. Not that just when I mentioned that they should train the president, governance is, you understand, there are the ministers, there could be retreats, there could be all sorts of that could let those that are assisting the government know their responsibility and wake up to their responsibility. With this, even if they are being relatively silent about it, with the happenings now, all the presidents that are within this ECOWAS sub-region are equally jittering, because there is this link between one coup and another. So this will serve as a wake-up call for them to do the right thing.
I think that ECOWAS, and maybe you can speak to this, needs to understand that the times have changed. This is not the 1990s, making statements strongly condemning issues. There has to now be actions that reflect the anger of the people in this region. And, you know, we're laughing when you talked about training of presidents, because with African leaders, it feels like threats work. Threats and sanctions work. You know, it's almost as though you have to compel people. We can't appeal to consciences anymore. It is clear that many of the leaders in this region do not have a conscience. You sit tight, you watch your people die, you're watching all of these things happen. It's a fact. We can't sugarcoat it, you know. But I want you to be able to get your thoughts on, you can speak to that as well, but to get your thoughts on the call for a standby force. Because that was one of the major things that were discussed yesterday in the meeting between both foreign affairs ministers, the importance of establishing a standby regional force to prevent future destabilization attempts. But both Ambassador Tsuga and the Beninois foreign minister said the same thing. Standby force located where, funded by who? What are your thoughts on that? Because that's an ongoing conversation. In fact, our Minister of Defense right now, when he was Chief of Defense Staff, had a meeting with chiefs of defense staff in the region where they were now talking about how this was supposed to happen and how it's supposed to be funded, where is it located, where do they get their orders from? What do you make of that?
By force has always been part of the ECOWAS principles and missions. You know, in the past, we've had the ECOMON, and we've seen their swift intervention in arresting some instability in Liberia and a host of other African countries. However, most of the countries that are within this, there are 15 member countries that are within these countries, find it difficult to make their remittance. So the ball of the whole financing will still stop at the door of Nigeria. And Nigeria is equally battling with some challenges. Even our budget for 2026 is, there is this clamor that they are going to be borrowing. So Nigeria cannot afford to play that big brother role that we've been playing in the past, because our interests equally need to be looked at in this ramification, because we've been doing it and some of them have not been paying us in the right way and the positive way. So I think Nigerians should just they should have a rejig and see whether we could continue to fund this when we are having other securities and issues and economic challenges.
I mean, but we'll continue that conversation, but just so we can give you some breaking news right now. The alleged 2.2 billion naira fraud, the EFCC set to arraign former Minister of Labor and Productivity, Chris Ngige. We have the visuals. I hope he's in court. At least I saw pictures and videos of him in court right now. He's been arraigned before Justice Miriam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Gwarimpa. Set to be arraigned on this 8-count charge. The former minister arrived at the premises of the court alongside a team of EFCC officials around 8:10 a.m. this morning. And of course, we'll be giving you the details of that as it unfolds. But right now, just so you can understand that that is happening at this moment, this alleged 2.2 billion naira alleged fraud, the EFCC arraigning former Minister of Labor and Productivity, Mr. Chris Ngige.
Indeed. Well, at this point, I think that while we go back to the conversation that we were having, you have said some of the things that you're hoping you'll see this particular Sunday as the heads of state and government meet. I also wanted to ask if you had a comment or two with regards to the screening of the ambassadors that happened yesterday. You're chuckling. Was it funny?
Doctor thinks
Not
it's funny.
really. I think I want to be silent about that for now.
Why? Why would you want to be silent about that?
I'm really taken aback. I didn't expect that.
Why? Tell us why you want to be silent about it.
Because I have some reservation on the crop of the people that are selected. Ambassadors are supposed mostly with the type of challenges we are having with other nations. First and foremost, they are coming at the late hour, and you can see that the career ambassadors are not really much on the list. And international relation and diplomacy is not a child's play. It's your image. That's the country's image. And now taking just the politicians mostly is one of the things that I'm not really comfortable about.
As we're wrapping up with you, just so people can understand the difference between career and non-career ambassadors, because I think a lot of Nigerian people don't really know the difference.
Yes, career ambassadors and non-career ambassadors are the departure between them is these are people that have been trained in the act of foreign affairs and diplomacy. The career ambassadors, they work mostly in the foreign affairs ministry. Some of them are scholars in this area, and they've had lot of trainings and experience, because there are some things that you don't really see in the book. You understand? So, and in diplomacy, your relationship can equally influence and induce a whole lot of issues. Now bringing the politicians that are just being appointed based on their relationship with the president, maybe it's a payback time for their effort in what they have contributed in making him win the election, is something that
They're non-career ambassadors.
Yes,
I
they
think
don't.
you already mentioned that.
Yes.
Well, we'll take your comment on silence very seriously on that, even though you've expatiated a bit. We have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Dr. Abdulrazak Ibrahim is a lecturer, Department of Political Science and International Relations at Anao University. Thank you once more for coming on the program. Well, we take a break now. When we return, we will continue our conversation on trending events for the week. Please stay with us.